Good morning, everyone. Namaste. So, I am Tina and I'm an yoga practitioner. We welcome you, sir, to the online curriculum session by Indian Yoga Association. So, today we have with us Dr. Kaustubh Desikachar of Krishnamacharya Healing and Yoga Foundation. He is the current lineage holder of the classical Vinny Yoga tradition of T. Krishnamacharya and T.K.V. Desikachar. He is an acclaimed yoga teacher, yoga therapist, healer, author of many books, poet, photographer, and spiritual advisor as well. So, online curriculum Learn with Masters, one of its kind of initiative by Indian Yoga Association, brings to you yoga gurus from around the world to share their journey and words of wisdom. Online curriculum aims at bridging the gap between the guru and the disciple. It's an endeavor to provide yoga lovers and followers of our Vedic culture a chance to meet world renowned yoga gurus and learn from them. So let's begin with the questions. Coming on to the first one, what is Vinny Yoga and how different it is from the modern times yoga?
Namaste, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity. The word Viniyoga is actually mentioned by Maharishi Patanjali. And Viniyoga, the word means an appropriate application of the tools of yoga to suit the individual at the level where they are. So, this is the inspiration behind which my ancestors took and created this tradition of Viniyoga, which we will define in a very simple way as the appropriate application of yoga's holistic tools such as asana, pranayama, chanting, mantra, and dhyanam to meet the needs of the individuals, respecting their differences in the age, in culture, in their religious belief, in their occupation, in their physical, emotional, and other health parameters that define each person. So rather than teaching people one set of practices that is suitable for all, Viniyoga actually aims to create individual practices for each person at their current stage of life, at their current status of life, because each of us are very different from each other. We are not all the same. And that is what is very beautiful about the Viniyoga, where we are tailor-making practices that are suitable for each and every individual. And when you talk about what is the difference between modern yoga and Viniyoga, this is one of the main differences, which is that in many modern schools, people are teaching a standardized practice to everybody, whereas we kind of tailor-make practices because that is how yoga was intended in the old days. In the old days, the teacher and student were actually one-to-one. They were not like one teacher and many students. And that is the beauty of our Vedic tradition. And so we are representing a very classical approach of teaching. Also, we only use the Vedic philosophy as our reference. Many modern schools are using modern science like medicine, etc., to try and justify their teaching. That is not correct. That is not valid because modern science did not exist at the time yoga was created by Maharishi Patanjali. What existed was our own Indian systems, and that is what is the basis of yoga, and that is what should be the basis of yoga. So that is what we also try to focus on, which is to keep our authenticity towards the classical teachings rather than try to make the modern medical practitioners happy because that is not going to work. So we have to understand yoga from the Vedic sciences, not the modern sciences like Ayurveda, yoga, the Upanishads, the Yoga Shastras. They have their own, how do you call, the frameworks. They don't need a medical framework to understand. So that's why I always say to people practicing today, if you want to learn yoga, do not follow a doctor who is teaching yoga. It is not going to work. Doctors are very narrow-minded because yoga is not about the body. Yoga is about the spirit, which medical science does not even acknowledge. So that's another big difference, which is we try to keep our tradition to a reference of our teaching as the classical traditional references. We are also teaching people not just asana practice, which is what most of the modern yoga schools are teaching. We are teaching the whole range of tools like asana, pranayama, mudras, bandhas, mantras, dhyanam, nyasas, bhavana, as well as give them appropriate advice on their diet and lifestyle, ahara and vihara. So we treat yoga in a holistic way rather than only in a postural way, because yoga is a holistic approach. So these are some of the main fundamental differences between Vini Yoga's approach to teaching yoga and the modern way that many yoga schools are teaching yoga. So that, I would say, in a very simple way, is the big differences. We can't hear you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, coming on to the next one, it is said that, for yoga teachings to be effective, true, and complete, they should come through Yoga Shishya Parampara. So, as an yoga educator, how true and effective is this statement in today's modern time?
Well, this is another very, very important factor. I believe that yoga is a spiritual tradition. It's not a physical tradition. Therefore, it has to follow a great parampara. In fact, because the secrets of yoga's more subtle teachings are passed on for generations through a lineage. And these are only taught by people who understand the Shastra for a long time. And that's where the commitment of the teacher and the student is very important. The student commits to a teacher for long term so that this knowledge can be learned, because our mind is not capable of learning everything in one instant. We all grow in our own life. And as we grow, I'm not only talking about physical growth, we grow emotionally, we grow spiritually, we grow experientially. As we grow, our mind is able to absorb things differently. So even if a certain teaching is taught at a certain level, the same teaching will have another meaning for us as we evolve. For example, I have studied the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali at least 4 or 5 times with my father. Each time was a different learning experience, because not only my mind was different, my experience of practice changed me. And at the same time, the experience of my father's practice changed him. So how he understood also changed. So that's why when there is a learning through a parampara, where there is a long-term relationship between teacher and student, the richness of the teaching is understood. And even today, even though my father is not alive, I still get newer and newer meanings of the same teachings. When I go back to the notes I have with my father, I see, oh my God, this is also possible because my mind has changed. But so the teachings appear differently. And that's the beauty of spiritual teachings. That's the beauty of the yoga teachings, is that it's not a one-time learning, like one time you listen to a teacher, it's enough. And that's why the parampara is also important, because there are many, many secret teachings that are there that are not casually given to the student. The teachers are testing whether the student is first and foremost committed to the tradition, to learn, to transform, to change. The teacher is also testing the capacity of the person, whether they will be able to understand these subtle teachings. And then the teacher is also checking the intention of the student. So these are all things that are taking time. And then only the greater and more secretive teachings are revealed. And I think that is what is missing in today's time as well, because many students are jumping from one student to another. Many teachers are also not interested in having a commitment to their students. They want to become famous gurus, and that is not really the way to transmit yoga. So I think there is a lacuna in our modern society in terms of parampara, and there are actually very few paramparas that are existing today who are able to create this opportunity. And a parampara is not just creating a huge ashram. It's actually the intimate relationship between the teacher and student where they spend time together studying for a long term. And that is the key, long term. It's years, not just days or months. You go to a 1-month retreat in an ashram, that is not really a long term. That's just a very, very short term. Because if we live a life of 70, 80 years, 1 month is nothing. So that's the thing which is lacking also in today's yoga world. And I really hope that it will change and the role of parampara will become more relevant and people will start seeing the importance of this.
Coming on to the next one, sir. Are we able to transact yoga in its true form to the world today?
It's possible. It is possible, but not in a large scale manner. And the reason for that is, first and foremost, we have to understand that yoga is about the mind. Yoga is not about the body. And very few people are actually interested in working with the mind. Somehow we have a taboo in our modern society of working with our mind. We have no problem dealing with body problems like diabetes, no problem. People are very proud to say, I am diabetic. People are cancer. People say, oh, I am cancer patient. There's no problem with people who say that. Whereas when there is some mind problems, like I've got anxiety or depression, people don't want to talk about it. People don't want to deal with it. And that's partially why we have a lacuna in interest of yoga as a full system. Because when you start dealing with yoga as a full system, you have to actually start dealing with our mind. And that is why I feel that it's not fully possible in a large scale quantity, because dealing with the mind also takes time. It's the changes in the mind, the changes in the emotions, they take time. So the classical way of teaching yoga is actually possible only one-to-one, because when we are dealing with each of our mind problems, we have to deal with it one-to-one. What problems you may have emotionally is very different from what problems your brother or sister or family member may have. And that's why the need for one-to-one is important. And when it is one-to-one teaching, how can a teacher have thousands and thousands of students? It's not possible. So that's where I say that there are some of us who are practicing yoga in its pure form, because we still are emphasizing on the one-to-one relationship between teacher and student. So we are trying to do our best to transmit it in the traditional form, and it is possible. But it is not lucrative enough for most people, because it's not going to give you lots and lots of fame, lots and lots of money. And that's why I don't believe that it is possible in large scale. But it is possible even today. We are in Kali Yuga, yes, but Dharma is still standing on one leg, even though there are other 3 legs missing. There's still one leg. So it is possible, but not in the large scale.
Okay, sir. Interesting question. You are the torchbearer of such a strong legacy. Krishnamacharya Healing and Yoga Foundation has been teaching and spreading awareness about yoga since long. So, how has the journey been?
The journey has not been very easy because um, the rapid popularity of yoga has actually happened in the last 20 years. And so with popularity comes a lot of challenges. There comes a lot of fake yoga that we have to deal with, like dog yoga, bear yoga, goat yoga. They are not really yoga, but somehow people are using the word yoga because it is popular to somehow popularize it. So in a certain way, because of the popularity, the quality of yoga has suffered. And that's created a certain doubts in the mind of a majority of the public about yoga. I've actually done a set of 5 YouTube videos on the challenges that yoga is facing in the eyes of the public. And we see that this has created some challenges. But our goal in the Yoga tradition is not to be the most popular yoga tradition. As you very rightly said, our tradition has been existing since the 800s. So we are about a 1200-year-old tradition in a continuous lineage. Our goal is not to be the most popular, but the most sustained tradition. So we want to make sure that our tradition will still exist 1200 years later. And the only way that we can do it is through maintaining the highest quality. So on the one hand, we have challenges. On the other hand, what has happened is that the most bright minds who want to learn the serious yoga, they come to us. So I'm very lucky that the most brilliant minds come to me to learn because we maintain that high quality. I very rarely get very superficial people or people looking for something quick fix, etc. to learn. People who come to me or our teaching are those people who are very sincere and dedicated. And this is also the good thing about the popularity of yoga, because as there is a saying in English, the cream will always rise to the top. So if we maintain high quality, people will see, because people will look up to what is on the top. They won't look up to what is on this. If you look at if you look at what the most popular yoga has been recently, it's all these new yogas like the dog yoga, bear yoga, aerial yoga, etc. You go 10 years ago, it was the hot yoga phenomenon. You go like 20 to 30 years, it was the power yoga, Ashtanga yoga phenomenon. You go like 40 years ago, it was the Iyengar yoga phenomenon. But they all had a peak and they collapsed. They all had a peak and then they collapsed. But if you look at our tradition, we've always been there, sustained, not only 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, but even 100 years ago, even 200 years ago, even 800 years ago, even 1200 years ago. So the goal is not to be most popular. The goal is to be most sustained. And that is why our focus is always on the highest quality teaching. We are not competing with any other yoga school to be popular. We are trying to actually represent the best standards. And that's why our groups are usually smaller, our trainings are smaller, and that creates a lot of joy because we get to know the student very well. We are able to offer very high quality teachings. And it has been a great pleasure. And the other thing that I see that's made me very, very happy in my lifetime as a teacher is because even up until my father was teaching, in the yoga world, there was a lot of men mostly. But somehow I'm seeing now that a majority of the students that are coming now to yoga around the world are women, especially in my classes, 95 to 99% of the students are women. And I think this is a great thing for yoga.
Yeah.
I think this is a phenomenal thing, and I really feel so happy because majority of my students are women, and I have so much pleasure in teaching them, because I think there was for too long the discrimination against women to learn all these knowledges, and now the karma is balancing itself where the majority of the students are women, and I feel very, very lucky. I mean, nowadays when I do the training programs, most of it is from in November, I did a trace and training program, and 100% of the participants were women. I was the only man in the room. So this is a big change as well. And I'm so happy about this change. I'm very happy about this change because it is time that the balance was restored.
Coming on to the next one, sir. Have we been able to go beyond the technique and grasp the essence of yoga?
Can you please repeat the question? Who?
Sure. Have we been able to go beyond the technique and grasp the essence of yoga?
We are in the process. Because when you look at the essence of the word yoga, it's a connection.
Yeah.
Yoga is about a connection. It's about a linking. So what is this link? The link is, in my view, three important connections we have to develop. First, we have to develop our connection to our own true nature, what is called our swadharma and our swabhava. The second is a connection to each other, to others who are part of our life, who we share our life with, like our family members, our friends, our colleagues at work, etc. We need to have a relationship or a deep connection with others, a healthy connection. And eventually, a healthy connection to the divine. So these three connections are important, and that is what the techniques of yoga are helping us to achieve. That's the goal of these techniques, whether it's the asana or the pranayama or the mantra or the meditation. They have to improve our relationships with ourselves, our relationship with others, and our relationship with the divine. So as I say, we in the beginning of this question, we are in this process. Through a lot of the practice now, a lot of people are starting to have a connection to themselves now. The body connection has started, connection to their body, but it's not enough. We have to go further. And I think that's why we are in that process, and it will take some time. And teachers of yoga must remind the students that it's not enough that we focus only on the body, because body will change. What a young body can do, an older body cannot do. So we can't only focus on the body, we have to focus on relationships in it. We are not going to be in an asana 24 hours a day. We have to deal with people. Okay, you are great, you can do 400 asanas, but how is it actually helping you improve your life? That's the test. So that's why we need to remind our students of these important connections. And we are in this process. And remember, even though yoga is very old in India, it's still very new. Because remember, as it's only been popular in the West from the 60s, and it's only been popular in India in recent years. Before, yoga was reserved for an exclusive small group of people. So even though yoga is very old, it's still very new for people. So it will take some more time. So that's why I would say we are in the process.
Okay, sir. Um, Coming on to the next one, is yoga synonymous to holistic transformation?
The purpose of yoga is for holistic transformation. We have to achieve our positive changes in the body level, in our energetic level, in our mind, in our emotions, as well as in our spiritual expression of our dharma. So, of course, yoga is for the sake of holistic transformation. There is no other way because we are holistic beings. So I would say, of course, yes, it is.
Okay, so connecting to the previous one, can we master the mind and can yoga helps us in doing so?
Well, of course, yoga is for helping us master our mind. That is why yoga was originally created.
Yeah.
But I don't like this word mastering the mind fully because people can think that it's a domination. Because mind cannot be mastered all the time. Because remember, mind is subject to the gunas, three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. So when tamas and rajas are dominant, mind is not going to be under our control. This is very, very normal. The time you are sleeping, for example, you cannot master your mind. The mind becomes the master of itself. The goal of yoga is to extend the sattvic period of the mind. So when the sattva is dominant in the mind becomes a very good vehicle for ourself to achieve its dharma in the appropriate way. So I would say that the goal of yoga is not to master the mind, but rather to extend the mind's sattvic state so that we are able to use it in an appropriate manner. Because we cannot control anything or anybody forever. The only person who can do it is God. Even us, we cannot control everything about ourselves. Can you control your breathing forever? No. Can you control when you sleep? No. Can you control when you are hungry? No. So we can't control everything about us because it is subject to the changes of the gunas. But the goal of yoga is to extend the sattvic period so that that time the mind is used in a positive way. Because remember, even the rishis, they would sleep. That means tamas was dominant in the mind. They would sleep. It's not that the rishis never slept. The rishi would get angry sometime. That's why they give all the shapa to the asuras who disturb them. So the rajas was also dominant. So it's not that the rishis are never in a state of tamas or rajas, they also were. But the extension of the sattvic state was greater. That's why they are the rishi.
Coming on to the next one, in these times when people only believe in earning and spending, so yoga can offer a much needed stability. What can be done to make sure that youngsters make yoga their lifestyle?
We have to make yoga enjoyable because remember the competition for your youngsters in the competition for yoga in the mind of youngsters is all the video games, the TikTok, the Instagrams, and all the social media distractions. So why would a young person want to give those up to do something that is very boring? They won't. So we have to make yoga more enjoyable. Teachers have to be more fun. They have to make it more enjoyable. They cannot make it serious and boring. If that is the case, it's impossible. That's why I'm so lucky because my father, when we were very young, he would make the yoga classes so enjoyable. We would have so much fun as children. So we would not want to miss out this fun. So that's what we have to do for the young people to be interested in yoga. That is to make it enjoyable. It should not be like a suffering. It should not be something boring. It should be like enjoyable. And it is possible to make yoga enjoyable. And that is the beauty. It is possible, but it's the skill of the teacher. So our competition is not other yoga schools. Our competition is all the TikTok, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, and Snapchats. That is our competition. And that is what we have to focus on. We have to make it more enjoyable. Why do people go there? Because it's enjoyable. So we have to make it fun for young people. And once they see that benefit as they grow, then they will continue. But in the beginning, it has to be fun and enjoyable for them to get attracted to it.
Okay. Coming on to the next one, how important is research in yoga?
It's very nice that you asked this question, because only yesterday we had a research committee meeting, which I was a part of, and we were talking about this. Yoga does not really need research to prove that it is valid or worthy, because our system has sustained for 2,500 to 3,000 years. That itself is enough proof that something works. And what is important is that the research that we produce has to be a very proper, very well scrutinized research methodology. And it has to be something serious, not just to publish papers. There are many people, even yogis, who claim they have 5 million views on their research and 10 million views, and they publish 1,000 papers, 2,000 papers. But if you read them, it's not quality. The quality of research is more important than quantity. And I think, unfortunately, that is what is happening now, because we're also lacking certain proper systems in our research. Like, for example, having a research ethical board is very important, and IOA is not yet created that, and I hope it will create that. We need those kind of certain systems in place if we want to conduct research. And there are also some challenges to research in yoga, because we are not just measuring something that is tangible, we are also measuring something that is intangible. Transformation is intangible. How a person transforms is not tangible. In the physical level, it's tangible. You grow 5 centimeters, is tangible. But if, let's say, you say, oh, yoga helped my confidence grow. How to measure the growth of confidence? It's not so simple. It's a qualitative self-report mechanism, because only that person knows how confident they were before and how confident they are now. So there are certain challenges. The role I see for research in yoga is to help put in ease in the minds of the public the validity of yoga for health purposes, for health and healing, because people need some kind of validity, because trust is not there. And another thing I think which is very key in yoga research is also should be the literary research, because there are so many beautiful texts on yoga that have so much information and knowledge that is fast going to be disappearing if we don't have young people studying. So the literary research has to be done, because that gives the framework for the applied research. And I think that is what I think we should focus on as well, that there should be a lot of literary research as well in this field of yoga.
Coming on to the last one, what is your message for the yoga seekers?
It's very difficult for me, because I don't consider myself as a great guru yet to give messages to people, because I am myself in the path of transformation and growth. But I can understand that you want something, and what I would like to say, which is what I try to practice in my own life, is try to be authentic to yourself. Don't try to be perfect, because yoga is about embracing our authenticity. We don't have to be perfect. Perfection is a construct of the ego. People all want to be a perfect father, perfect mother, perfect daughter, perfect student, perfect teacher, perfect practitioner. It's not going to work, because there's nothing called perfection that exists. Try to be authentic and true to your nature, and that will carry you in your life farther than the search for perfection will. So that's all I try to implement in my life. And if this works for other people, they can embrace it. Otherwise, they can find their own message.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us your time and sharing your wisdom with us. It was really a wonderful session. I would like to thank all our viewers as well. Thank you.
Namaste. Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.